officers are human. And I would like people to just actually imagine themselves in that position, having gone through that, having had 3 police officers have to attend hospital, one with a broken nose, having a fight with 3 large guys, having to grapple them, and you've got a weapon on your side. I've had to grapple with someone with a weapon on my side. It's not a nice experience because I realize that suddenly you are at their disposal and you cannot allow them. And I'll tell you now, if somebody actually gets your weapon and tries to pull it away from you, then there is reasonable force would be to shoot them because you have reasonable thoughts to actually.
A video has gone viral online appearing to show a police officer kicking and stamping on the head of a man lying on the ground at Manchester Airport. The officer is seen holding a taser over the man who's lying face down before striking him twice. Greater Manchester Police said that firearms officers had been attacked while attempting to arrest somebody following a fight at the airport's Terminal 2 yesterday. Let's speak to Harry Tangye, who is a former armed response police officer and author of Firearms and Fatals. Harry, good evening. You have seen the video. What do you make of it?
Yes. Well, initially, I'm just very suspicious. Why does it start? The one I've seen is it starts right on the foot swinging. And the initial thoughts are, well, was that entirely necessary? And then you have to think, actually, these armed officers have just been trying to arrest very large men who have resisted arrest. They've grappled with them. They know they've already put 3 police officers to require hospital treatment, 1 female officer with a broken nose, and they're grappling. Now, if any of those individuals get hold of that gun, then God knows what would happen. Quite frankly, the officers cannot allow them to do that. And if you grapple with a firearms officer, let me tell you now, you'll either end up very bruised or very dead. With regards to the actual kick, I would like to know what happened before that.
Okay,
I'm very suspicious of the edited footage.
I must say, I'm looking at a video here, which is 43 seconds. It is about 2 seconds before the first foot strikes, and the man does appear to be on the ground. His head is actually facing away from the officer. He does turn his head to look towards the officer, but he does appear to be restrained. He's lying on the ground. His hands are down by his side, and that is the point at which the officer strikes. Now, of course, there'll be an investigation, and you're right, context is really important. But I think it's just worth me saying that it does appear to I've got a couple of extra seconds perhaps than you saw on the video, and the gentleman does appear to be restrained.
Okay, and so just say you're quite right, there'll be an investigation, and quite rightly. I hope what will be taken into consideration if it is found that that officer has lashed out like that, and just say, because I would love to see all the information, the evidence first of all, but okay, let's go with that. Then I would hope that taking into consideration the adrenaline pumping around those officers, knowing that their lives could be taken or other members of the public in that area, because once that weapon has gone, God knows what's going to happen. So I think public have got to realize that when an individual such as a police officer is dealing with that situation, they are going to be pumped. It's going to be flight or fight, and they are fighting at that moment. And if it's the fact that an officer has acted overzealously or whatever, I hope it's taken into consideration that there is enormous amounts of adrenaline pumping through that individual.
But your job as a police officer in that moment, though, Harry, particularly as an armed one, presumably, is to show a level of restraint, isn't it?
Yeah, yes, it is. But officers are human. And I would like people to just actually imagine themselves in that position, having gone through that, having had 3 police officers have to attend hospital, 1 with a broken nose, having a fight with 3 large guys, having to grapple them, and you've got a weapon on your side. I've had to grapple with someone with a weapon on my side. It's not a nice experience because I realize that suddenly you are at their disposal and you cannot allow them. And I'll tell you now, if somebody actually gets your weapon and tries to pull it away from you, then there is reasonable force would be to shoot them because you have reasonable thoughts to actually. The fact that he's on the ground and as he's saying, I'll concede to you that on initial thoughts it doesn't look good. So I'd like to see the rest of the footage, but I'd also like for people just to consider for a second that their body is pumping with adrenaline, and sometimes policing doesn't look very pretty. And yes, if there's things can be learned, and if there's even looking at that, I doubt that there's particularly injuries. So I don't think it's huge force involved. And whether it shouldn't have been happening, they decide that. they can deal with that. But I hope it's appropriately.
Just very briefly, how does that process work then, Harry? What happens now?
Well, the force, whenever there's something that will attract public attention, then the force tends to volunteer that it goes to the IOPC and that they would have a look at it. The IOPC then will look at it and say, no, actually, this is the force. The force can look at it. Their professional standards unit, they can look at it as that level. We're happy that things were as they were. If they think it's more serious and there could be charges involved, then it goes to the IOPC, and then we'll get the result in about 5 years' time, shall we?
Right. Okay. Fine. Okay. That's something for us to look forward to. Harry, thank you for your time tonight. Really appreciate it. Harry Tangye, who is a former firearms officer, former armed response police officer, and author of Firearms and Fatals. Let me just remind you of what Greater Manchester Police had to say. They said that while attempting to arrest one of the subjects of an earlier altercation, 3 officers were subjected to a violent assault where they were punched to the ground. A female officer suffered a broken nose. There was a clear risk during the assault to their firearms, of their firearms being taken from them. 4 men were arrested at the scene for a fray and assault on an emergency service workers. We acknowledge the concerns of the conduct within the video, and our professional standards directorate are assessing this, they say.